Welcome to Catskill Weiss Schwarz, and welcome to 2026. Now that it is a new year, I thought it would be great to start off by taking a look back at the previous year, 2025. I've already made a couple of videos where I discuss different aspects of the game and cards that came out in 2025. This will be a similar video where I discuss my top 10 favorite Weiss pickups for the year 2025. So I'm taking a look back at my favorite cards that I bought or pulled in 2025. It is not a list that is limited to cards that came out in 2025. So there are a couple of cards on here that came out in 2024, and there's even a card that came out way back in 2022. The only restriction was that I must have gotten it in 2025. A little brief history about myself before I get started. I have been collecting Weiss as far back, I would say, as the summer of 2021. I didn't start playing till a little while later. Before that, I spent about 20 years playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And collecting Yu-Gi-Oh! And then around 2020, I started shifting towards Pokemon a little bit. And I started off by collecting, then moved to playing. And then I started doing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon both at the same time. And then one day I was just browsing the internet for Pokemon cards. And I came across a random listing for a Nisekoi card that had a signature on it. And it was in Japanese. And I had no idea what Weiss Schwarz was. I bought the card after doing a little bit of research and saw that this was a game that was filled with various anime IP, and there were a lot of signed cards and really nice shiny cards in it, from sets from series that I really enjoyed. So I bought the Nisekoi card. FedEx lost it, so I never actually got it. At that point, I thought maybe it was a sign from the universe that Japanese cards weren't for me, so I shifted to English Weiss Schwarz instead and just started collecting English Weiss. I did at that point in time try to learn what the cards did and how to play, and I feel like I'm generally pretty decent at card games, but I just could not get into Weiss for the life of me. I did eventually get better at it. I gave it a second shot a while later, and now I would say, whereas back then I was a collector first and a player never, I am now first and foremost a player who happens to get nice cards that would look good in a collection. So to start this list, I wanted to go with a couple of honorable mentions. It was really difficult to narrow this list down to 10 cards. When I was just thinking, rattling off cards off the top of my head, I actually can only get to like 6 or 7 cards I thought would be like worthy slots on the list. And then I just started going through my TCG player history, my eBay history, my PayPal history, and just looking at the sets that came out this year. And very quickly, those 10 cards, those 6, 7 cards, very easily got to 10. From there, it got to 20, and that was too much. I couldn't make a top 20 list of the year. So I very, very painfully narrowed it down to 10, but there were still a couple of cards that I wanted to talk about. So we have 2 honorable mentions. To start, we've got these 4 copies of this Unwavering Conviction from the Rurouni Kenshin set that came out in the spring of 2025. These are actually the same card, they just have different arts. They are both OFRs. I think Kenshin was one of the most underrated sets of 2025. This set does not take from the original series, it takes from the remake series that's been airing. The art is really great, even if the series isn't as good as the original. I really like it when Bushiroad gives us climaxes with different arts on them, but it's the same climax. Especially when you got a foil version of them. They just look really great. I love the duality of this Kenshin, really shows both sides of him. I think Bushiroad did a great job with the foils in the set. While the Kenshin set in English was a bit of a letdown because we did not get signatures on the cards, instead we got these very weird looking symbols and things that really don't look great. Otherwise, I think this set I would have probably put the level 1 combo on here. I do have one secret of the level 1 combo in English, and while the art is still nice, I just couldn't pull the trigger on getting any more copies because without the signature, it kind of kills it, and it's a real shame that Bushiroad couldn't do it because I think there would have been more Kenshin cards on this list. I do enjoy Kenshin, and like I said, I think the set was underrated, but it still is filled with a lot of really nice art, especially because it is pulling from a show that, whether you like it or not, the art is pretty decent in it. It's got some very solid colors, very pleasant to look at. There are so many foils in the set that are just beautiful to look at. So just a couple of cards that were honorable mentions that I really enjoyed from that set. Next honorable mention, and the last, will be this Foremost Mage Megumin. I have been a fan of Konosuba for many years now, for most of my adult life, I would say. Definitely for years before I got into Weiss. Once I did get into collecting Weiss, I quickly learned there was Konosuba. I made it my mission to try to collect Konosuba. I failed pretty spectacularly. At that point, Konosuba was pretty hard to find. People were collecting Weiss like crazy after the COVID boom, and it was just really hard to find Konosuba cards, especially the foils, at anywhere near a decent price. And then this is actually from the reprint for the movie set, which did come out in beginning of 2025, but the movie set did come out well before 2025. But it's got the silver signature on it. At one point, I did own a gold. I eventually sold it because I was never building a Konosuba deck, and I wanted to buy some other stuff, and then I kind of regretted it later because I do love Megumin. It's probably my second favorite character in the show, and it's a decent enough combo. And then I remember one day I was just at the movies waiting for Freakier Friday to start at some point over the summer, and I was really bored because it wasn't starting, and I was just browsing TCG Player looking for any deals I might have seen, and I saw that there were 4 copies of this Megumin listed at a reasonable price. Um, I was impulsive and I bought them. 2 of the sellers wound up canceling, saying that they had already sold them and forgot to take down the listings, but 2 of them came through. I never wound up getting 2 more copies to make a play set, and I never wound up finishing the deck, just been too busy. But I do love Megumin. I do like how the reprint did make this a bit more accessible. It is a pretty fun combo. It's super flavorful, like most of Megumin's combos. It does involve resting her, which is very flavorful to the show. It does have great art. She's a great character. So I did pick it up in 2025, and I just wanted to mention it. Pretty great card. Now, to get started with the actual list, in 10th place, I have this Special Relationship Matsuri. Now, I am 25% cheating with this because one of these I got back in 2024 when the set came out. Ayakashi Triangle is a set that I didn't think would ever actually come to English. I thought it was a bit too niche for Bushiroad to take the chance to bring it to English. And so I was close to buying it in Japanese. Even though I don't own any Japanese decks or anything like that, I did really want to buy into the set. Luckily, I hesitated a bit too long because at a certain point, Bushiroad did announce it. And then it did come out in the summer, I think, of 2024. I got a bunch of cards I wanted at the time, but I only got one of this SEC. I never really put a deck together. I got distracted. Other things came up. I was focusing on other decks. And then at some point in 2025, I just decided that I didn't want to half-ass it. So I just went and I got the other ones that I needed. And I did enjoy the anime. So it wasn't like it was tough to finish it out. I had always sort of wanted to. I would have put the Suzu Brainstorm Secret on here. I did get a couple of copies of her this year. I got none of them when it was released. This was a card that was really tough to find. The other 3 copies I needed to make the playset so I could make that deck. Ayakashi sold a bit better, I think, than I imagined it would have when it got brought over to English, but I don't think it was necessarily still a set that did the most explosive numbers. So tracking down 3 copies of this was pretty tough. It did take a while. Probably took a few months, and just randomly spotting a listing or somebody randomly reaching out to me because they saw my post like 2 months after I made a post looking for these, and they had one. It was just a lot of luck, a lot of chance, a lot of randomly finding them. But now that I've got them all, I am pretty happy that I put in the effort to get them. The deck is fun. It's more fun than I thought it would be. I do like the show. It's a very beautiful card. Matsuri's a very beautiful man. And while I don't necessarily play this every single week at my locals, and I wouldn't really take this deck to a regional, I still enjoy it, and I would definitely say the journey to collecting them was well worth it. In 9th place, I struggled with this a bit. It is a card from Quince Premium. Quince, there's always going to be a Quince card on this list. I already owned all the Quince cards that I wanted that had come out before 2025, but 2025 started with the premium booster for Quince, which is a set I was very, very much looking forward to. Quince holds a special place in my heart when it comes to Weiss, because when the first Quince set was coming out, I knew I was going to buy into it heavily, but at that point, I still really didn't know how to play. I gave up pretty quickly when I had tried learning a few months prior to that, and I just thought it was a little ridiculous that I was going to be buying a bunch of cards from this Quint set from the first set without knowing what they actually did. So at that point, I said, I just have to buckle down, learn how to play the game. I don't have to be good at it, but I do need to know what the cards do at the very least. And it took a little bit of work. There was a lot to learn up front when comparing to some other card games like Pokemon, which I picked up fairly quickly. Definitely worth it though, since now I do just love playing the game. So I really credit Quince, this first set, to getting me into actually playing Weiss on a more consistent basis, even though it was tough to actually find players locally. But I do love the show, but I definitely had to include some Quint stuff just because of how much an impact it had on me in terms of playing the Weiss game. Originally, I was torn between this Miku from the premium booster because Miku is my favorite. It has great art, it's a pretty solid effect. In the end, though, I chose not to go with this Miku. I wound up picking this Ichika. It is the Onwards Together with You Ichika. Ichika, I know this is a very a take that not everyone's going to agree with. Ichika is my second favorite girl, Miku being the first. I know a lot of people call Ichika a snake and all that. I think there's a bit more to Ichika than people give her credit for. She had a lot on her shoulders, but so as a fan of the show, I do enjoy Ichika. As a player, I think this is a very simple, but it's a very effective card. Something about the art, I love all the wedding veil arts that all the girls have in this set. So I honestly could have picked any one of them because I do have them all and they do just look really nice. But I do like Ichika. She also has a really solid effect. She's just a simple JC. That's an effect I love on a level 0. Ichika has, at this point, you could maybe make the argument that in terms of playability, she has the best card pool out of any of the girls in Quince. They do all by now have a very large card pool of some really good effects. You could make the argument that it's Nino. Nino is on the choice list, so she's a little harder to play. But Ichika's no slouch. However you rank her, she has a lot of fantastic cards. I think this was a simple yet very powerful addition to the Ichika lineup. I was looking forward to this set for a lot of reasons. I was specifically looking forward to this card because I knew she would be a card that I would throw into a lot of different Quince decks as long as they weren't locked to a specific girl. So I was very excited to get her. Picked her up right away when the set came out. Definitely didn't regret it. Just a really great card. Decent girl. I said what I said. And on to number 8. This is actually a card I picked up, I want to say maybe a couple of weeks ago or so. Got it in an eBay auction. It is the Reliable Friend Rio Futaba from Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl set, which came out, I believe, I want to say 2022, in the fall of 2022. This is actually the serial 7 out of 10. Rio won it in an eBay auction very recently. The card itself is just okay. It actually doesn't read terrible. And then there is a way to bring her out at level 1. But every time I read the card and I think about building the deck, just because Futaba is second best girl from that show after I do love Futaba. I remember she's on a book, and despite being someone who reads a lot, I do love to read books and listen to audiobooks if I'm working or something like that. I hate book. Book is a terrible trigger, and I can't bring myself to play it in anything outside of 8-book Toka, and that's mostly because I love Toka from Date Alive. But it was pretty great to pick this up. It is sort of one of those, like, I don't want to say be dramatic and say once in a lifetime sort of pickups, but 7 out of 10. It's hard to get serials in general. It's even harder to get someone who's willing to sell one, and even if they are, it's harder to get them to sell at a reasonable price and for it to be of a character that you actually like, since I think all the SPs or most of the SPs in the set did get serials. But Futaba is pretty great. So I was very excited when I got this. I didn't think I'd actually win the auction. Definitely a card that I don't regret picking up, even if I'm not going to really throw the card in a deck or anything. However, when we got the third Rascal set in March of 2025, it had a lot of legacy support for older combos. So from a player standpoint, from someone who really enjoys playing Weiss and loves playing Bunny Girl, They already gave a lot of support to combos from set one and set two in the third set. We do have an announced set for Japan for a fourth set. Maybe they'll continue giving some legacy support. Maybe they'll give something that makes this easier. Maybe they'll give some book support like they did in Data Live to make stomach the idea of playing book easier to stomach. Maybe they'll give some specific support to this combo. Even if they don't, I still love Futaba, and having a serial version of her is pretty nice. It was a reasonable enough price too, so it didn't really sting too much or anything. Definitely something I did not expect I would be picking up at the start of the year, but it was a nice way to close out the year. In seventh place, I picked up 4 copies of this Battleship New Jersey SP from Azure Lane Volume 2. I don't follow Azure Lane. I've never played it. I do know someone who does, and he showed me some things from it. It doesn't really seem like it would be my speed. I did watch the anime, and I got to admit I didn't love season one, but I could see the appeal of why people like the mobile game or whatever it is. However, as someone who did buy a decent amount into Azure 1 just because I liked how it played and I liked the art on a lot of stuff, I thought Azure Volume 1 was a great set that was missing a few key things to really push it over the top. It had some gimmicks that worked out well enough, and it had some things that were decent, but it needed a bit more support around it. One thing that it was missing is Rico, which is what this New Jersey is. She is a pretty balanced Rico. We've seen a lot of Ricos recently that let you draw on play in addition to serving as a Rico. She does give you the option to draw if you reveal a certain level, so she's a more balanced Rico where you could potentially draw, but you're not guaranteed the draw. Still a great card, has really great art. From the little bit that I have looked up for Azure, I do like New Jersey. She is one of my more favorites. Enterprise being another favorite of mine. And it's just a card that as a player I was very excited to get because the only Rico that Azure had from set 1 was a level 1 blue from a trial deck. It was the Baltimore, I think. And having your Rico locked behind a level 1 means you have to be playing that color, so you can't splash it into every deck. And I just love the profile, but the art is really nice. I definitely think this art is a step up from the regular art, even though the regular art actually isn't terrible. Another reason why I did really like picking this card up is when Azure 2 came out, it appeared that this card was one of the cards that was the most hotly desired by the community. A lot of people were making posts looking for this, like a lot of people who were offering good chunks of money. I was able to get mine surprisingly quickly, and then people were really scrambling to get theirs. Now it seems like it's cooled off a bit now that it's been a few months since the release of Azure 2. But while I basically did spend a couple of sleepless nights just looking for all the stuff I wanted from Azure, just constantly refreshing the Facebook group post and did looking at the Discord group, I am glad that I was able to get these. I pretty much throw 3 copies of this into any deck, so I guess I don't really need the fourth, but I am glad that I have it. It's something that I feel like future-proofs Azure Lane for me, and with the success of Volume 1 and 2, I'm sure at some point we will get an inevitable Volume 3. In 6th place is another Azure Lane Volume 2 card. I picked up 4 copies of this aircraft carrier Enterprise. Going into Azure Lane Volume 2, this was the card I was most excited to get. I think this Enterprise is a fantastic card from a player standpoint, from a collector standpoint. I think it's just an incredible card to look at. The art is really nice. It's really clean. I love that she's got a little eagle behind her on the boat just chilling. It's a really nice card. The signature looks beautiful. I know that there's a secret plus for this. It doesn't have the signature. I do like the signatures on cards, especially if you're spending that kind of money for them. While the art is nice on the Secret Plus, I just never wanted to go for it when I had this great SP option. I think while the original art is kind of fine, it's a little boring. At least in New Jersey, the regular double rare art had a bit more going for it. I feel like the Enterprise, the double rare art is a little bland. So this is like a huge step up. But this was absolutely the combo that I was looking forward most to building from Azure. From a player standpoint, even if I don't care about Azure Lane whatsoever in terms of the mobile game or its story or whatever it does, I really don't know what goes on in that game. I just really wanted this card. I think that blue has a lot of good stuff in it, yellow has a lot of good stuff in it. So Enterprise sort of locks you out from green and red, which really isn't that big a deal, especially since red is probably the worst color in Azure, arguably. But it's just a really great card overall. This is the card, if I had to just pick one card from Azure Volume 2 to pick up at the time, it would have just been this card, because I just really was looking forward to it that much. I was going to be playing it this regional season. I haven't had the time to test it the way that I would have liked and to perfect the builds as much as I would have liked. So I have switched, which I've switched to playing our fifth place card, which we'll get to in a moment. But overall, it's just a really great card. She has a really great effect. Even if I'm not using her like as much, I still try to use her pretty often. At our locals, we can play a different deck every round. I don't know if all locals let you do that, so I do play her a decent amount. I play around with a lot of different Azure decks. She just is a lot of fun. Even when I'm not playing, I just like knowing that I have her for my collection. Sticking her in our binder looks nice. Putting her in a deck looks nice. Just a really great card overall. Very solid card that I think will be good for a long time to come because her effect is just that good. And from the, again, little bit that I do know about Azure Lane, I do really enjoy Enterprise. While I didn't like season 1 of the show, I did like Enterprise in it, and I do think this combo is a huge step up from the trial deck combo that she got in set 1, which was a possible burn 3, whereas this is a possible burn 3 twice, which is just a lot better, and it's much easier to pull off. So just a great card overall. I did think about ranking it higher, but in the end, I had to make some decisions, and she got put in 6th place. But definitely one of my favorite cards of the year, and I'm very glad I picked it up. In 5th place, we have this Lost Girls Band Tamori, last name, from the Maigo Ab Musica Bane Dream set that came out in July of 2025. Now, before I bought into this set, I had never bought a Bane Dream card in my life. I had never played Bane Dream in my life. I knew very little about Bane Dream. And I had heard about this set, the Maigo Ad Musica set, being like just a really, really powerful set. It was a set that a lot of people were sort of like afraid of. Maybe not this combo. It was probably more the Dolores combo, but definitely it was a set that people were talking about. And I heard just a lot of people telling me how it was gonna like warp the meta, the way that Mai from Bunny Girl warped the meta earlier in the year. But once it got really close to it, I think literally the night before I started just reading what the cards did, and I realized why people were talking about it so much. The set is kind of insane. Nobody was talking about this card specifically, which I was a little surprised about because I did think this card was really, really great. But I think whatever day the set came out, it was the night before. I had just finished reading the entire set. I had like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 hours before midnight of the day of release. So I just sat down and I watched the show to decide if I really wanted to invest into this set. If I liked the show, I probably would. If I hated the show, I probably wouldn't have. Or maybe I just would have gotten like a base rarity playset or something. But I wound up really enjoying the show. I thought Tamori was second best girl, but even second place was pretty great in the show. It's got a great cast. The show was pretty decent, aside from the terrible CGI animation. But it was really solid. So a few hours later, some listings started going up, bought into them. Tamori was my go-to, the thing I wanted to make sure I got first. I would say that Tamori is a combo that I have put in a lot of different decks in 2025. I played around with her a lot, changed her level 1 combos that she was paired with, used a whole bunch of different zeros and utility cards, but she has been pretty much the constant for me. Definitely the level 3 combo I have played the most in 2025. Definitely my favorite level 3 combo. Probably my favorite combo that was released in 2025, I would say. Just a really great card. I think it's super underrated. The art is gorgeous. Playability wise, this card really does not get enough love. I know that people read it and they do think it's solid, but everyone just talks about the Dolores, and now people are talking about the other level 3 combo that has Tamori, where it's also got the Anon clock kick restander thing, which is a good combo, but I think this is just in a league of its own, and it has so much going for it. It's such a great package around it. Just a really great card, and I am really glad that I picked it up in 2025. 4th place, was very challenging for me because I knew it would come down to Licorice Recoil, but I wasn't quite sure which cards from Licorice Recoil. At first, I was deciding between this Takina, that's a Rico, and these Chisatos, that's a Ricky from the Premium Booster. I already owned all the other important Licorice Recoil stuff from set 1. I was really looking forward to the Premium Booster that came out in June of 2025. I love the effects on these cards so much. They were very much needed for the set as a whole, but definitely for the deck that I was playing. The art is absolutely stunning. Even if the cards were bad, I would have bought them anyway because the art is just so great on them. Bushiroad really cooked. I think they hired like 30 something, or they claim they hired like 30 something different artists to design original art for this set, and it really shows. It's just a beautiful looking set. These are some beautiful looking SPs. I love how they mirror each other. Just really great. But in the end, I did not go with either of those cards, though those were the two cards I was originally deciding between. In the end, I went with these two Chance for a Bite, Takina, and Chisato cards. These were the winners promo versions from the Licorice Recoil Meister Cups, which started up shortly after the release of the Premium Booster for Licorice. While this card is in the Premium Booster, it has similar art, but it is different. This was a promo that was given to the winner of particular Meister Cups. I went to two Meister Cups, and I wound up winning both of them. The first one was challenging. I'm not going to say it was easy or anything like that. It was, I think, 4 rounds. My last round was probably the hardest, I would say. I had a couple rounds that were okay, but like just I don't know. I think I really high rolled a couple of games, so it's not really a fair like comparison. My last game was really hard, and I think I won a little bit by chance, maybe. But this is a fantastic card that is easily my favorite card from the Premium Booster. I was so excited for the Premium Booster because it had so much in it, but I think this Chance for a Bite was just the best card in it. Not only was it the best card in the Premium Booster, in the video I posted earlier where I discussed the top 10 best cards released in 2025, I actually named this number 1. I think this card just does so much for the combo. It does it for so cheap. It's such a fantastic card. Now, I really like Licorice Recoil. I really love the IP. I think I chose this because it was one of the only cards I didn't really have to like buy or trade for or anything like that. I had to like win it. I guess I could have bought it. There were people selling it, but these two I did win. So it feels like, I don't want to sound dramatic and say more like I earned them, but I guess it feels like more like I earned them, especially in the second Meister Cup I went to, which was actually on my home turf, in the Poughkeepsie, New York area, at a sister store to the locals I go to every weekend, where everyone from my normal locals went to. So it was pretty much just us, I think. And that was a very, very tough Meister Cup. I thought that I was the one who played Licorice the most, but people must have been practicing on their own or something because I had some very, very difficult games. We had 4 rounds of Swiss, then we went to Top Cut. I was undefeated in Swiss, and then I had to go, at that point, undefeated in Top Cut, and I think there was one game where I wasn't sweating the entire time because the other games were just so difficult. Definitely by the end, I was Weissed out. I was Licorice Recoiled out. But I was playing against friends and some really close games, some really good games, games that were really coming down to the wire. It was just really great. So that second copy, I don't know which one it is since I opened both of them and I didn't mark them. But the second copy felt really hard. It was a hard fought victory. I eventually got it. So it just like feels a little bit different. Definitely holds a special place. Kind of like how Quince, where maybe the card on its own doesn't necessarily look like a top 10 card of the year, and the effect isn't a top 10 card of the year. But because Quince has such a special place in my relationship with playing Weiss, maybe because I had to win these, it just holds a different place in my heart. Even though I already loved the card to begin with. And I might have even just put the regular version on here if I didn't get these. But I do love this card, which is why it ranks 4th for top 10 cards I picked up this year. In 3rd place, I picked up 4 copies of this Momentary Illusion Knapsack Kid. This is the ABR Knapsack Kid from the Rascal Does Not Dream series set, which was the third Bunny Girl set that released in March of 2025. I love Bunny Girl. I have been into Bunny Girl since well before I got into Weiss, ever since the first season came out. I think I heard about it shortly, like right after the first season ended. Binge watched it, saw the movie, Dreaming Girl movie, and then then I did get into Weiss. Super disappointed that by the time that I got into Weiss, I had sort of missed the boat on Bunny Girl cards, because by then Bunny Girl cards had gone to the moon and they were impossible to find for the high rarity versions. Definitely signatures for my were impossible to find. I know that this is not my, it's Knapsack Kid, who I have no idea what happens in the light novels. I don't read them. I just go by the anime, so I don't know if it's she's Mai from the future or if she's. I saw someone post a theory that she was like the kid of Mai and Sakata, or something like that. I have no idea. I do know that she is also the voice actress for Knapsack Kid is the voice actress who voices Mai. So I had a chance to get a card signed by Asami Seto, who voices Mai. Unfortunately for the English release of the Rascal Does Not Dream series, the two Mai cards that were supposed to have signatures did not have signatures, even though everything else in the set did, which was really disappointing. However, Knapsack Kid, even though she still has Mai's voice actor, she did get a signature. So in a way, I was able to like sort of get a workaround to finally being able to get an English copy of a card that was signed by Asami Seto, who also voices Mina from Kaiju Number 8, and she voices Raftalia from Shield Hero. She's just a great voice actress. I still think her best work is Mai. Mai is one of my favorite girls in any anime, so I was very excited for Rascal Does Not Dream series. I do think I ranked it number 2 on our top sets of the year when I was ranking them. Just a great set overall. I do think that this is a super underrated card. It's a card that doesn't see a lot of play. Everyone's pretty much focused on 8 door. However, I think it's a very decent card overall. Maybe at some point the meta will be just so. Maybe the 8 door version will get hit a little bit more, where this card will start seeing some more play. I've played it a ton in the simulator. I haven't really played it in real life yet. I really should. I've been meaning to. There's just so many different decks that I'm always testing out, or I'm always testing for a regional or something like that. But I'm definitely happy that I picked this up, since like I said, I did sort of miss the boat on the original Bunny Girl set, since I got into Weiss a little too late. However, we did get the reprint set for set 1, and we got Dreaming Girl right around the same time, and at that point I was into Weiss. However, when the reprint for the first set came out, it did not come with signatures. It came with stamps of that. I think they just said Rascal does not. It just said the title of the show, I think, or something like that. So it was nice to get the reprints. A lot of the art still looks nice, but we didn't get the signature, so I really never had an opportunity to get Asami Seto's signature in English, and I was just really happy to have that opportunity. So it was definitely, outside of the cards I needed for the 8 door deck, which I really wanted to play because it was so good, I would definitely say this was the card I was rushing to pick up the most from that set, since it is a solid card. Even though we haven't seen much of Knapsack Kid, I assume that's going to change with the next series that's coming out. And it's just a very nice looking card. Solid effect. The signature looks beautiful. It is nice to have a Asami Seto signature. So definitely something that, while this has probably so far been something I've appreciated more as a collector than a player, unlike a lot of cards on this list so far, I am really glad that I picked it up. Coming in second place, I have this Serial Rare Climax from the My Go Av Musica set. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. However, this Climax pairs with the Tamori last name from Bane Dream that we looked at earlier, which, as I said, is my favorite combo of the year, at least my favorite level 3 combo of the year. Now, somebody from my locals, they pulled this in front of me. They opened a random box of this, they opened a random box of Konosuba, and they got this card. Tamori, like I have said, is second best girl from the show, but second is not an insult here. First is just a great girl, so Tamori is a very, very solid second place girl, and she is on my favorite Climax combo in the set. So I went and I made that person an offer. They accepted. I got the card, he got a little money, and we were both super happy. It was really great. It was a cool experience, like seeing it be pulled. You know, it's really hard to pull cereal, even though there are 10 different cereals in the MyGo at Musica set. It's still cool to see one get pulled in front of you. Even better that it was this one instead of the the other cereal is the Dolores combo, which is still fine, but I just like this combo better. I like that this cereal has the signature for that voice actress that matches the level 3 combo itself. They got the matching signatures there. Just a really nice looking card. It is always cool to have a cereal. At the beginning of this year, I owned zero cereals. I thought by the end of the year, I would still own zero cereals, and then now I've got two. The one we looked at earlier and this one. It was definitely a very random thing. Like I said, it was cool that it was pulled in front of me. Uh, it was great that it was pulled from our local shop. If it was pulled at a different store, maybe that person would have kept it, or they would have put it online for a ridiculous price. The only other person, a couple of people I've seen try to sell cereals from this set were asking for insane amounts, which is probably why they have not been able to sell them. But definitely something that I like to flex with. I do play with it. Really beautiful card for a very beautiful and powerful combo with Second Best Girl. So definitely worthy of my second favorite pickup of the year. In first place is a pick that I really didn't think would be on here, especially if I had made this video going into 2025 where I was going to predict my top 10 favorite pickups of the year. I probably would have only picked brand new cards from sets like Quince and other things like that I was really excited for. However, the number one pickup for me this year were these 4 copies of One Who Has Loved Shauna. She actually did not come out in 2025. She came out in 2024. I want to say fall 2024. She came out in the Dengeki Bunko set. This is Shauna from Shakugo no Shauna, which is a show I did not watch and I never really heard of until Dengeki was coming out. I think the premium booster, if that's what it was, for Shauna came out a few months before Dengeki, and it didn't have a particularly good finisher. It really just sort of had a gimmick of a 1-1 Yuji that says you can't take auto damage while it's out, which can't win you games on its own. So that set was really waiting for Dengeki to come out because then you would be able to play this Shauna level 3 combo with the rest of the cards from Shauna that had already come out. I think this is a fantastic combo. I know that not everyone agrees that it's that great of a combo. It's just ditch 2, burn 4. If it's canceled, shuffle cards back into your deck. The number of cards that get shuffled is equal to the number of other characters you have on your stage. However, I think the card is beautiful to look at. She is flame, so she matches the traits of the characters from Shauna. You could also play her in Dengeki Bunko if you want to go that route. The only real downside to playing her in pure Bunko is that you cannot play the 1-1 Yuji I already mentioned, which says you're not going to take auto damage. So I have enjoyed playing her, even though I probably haven't played her as much as I should have, just because she is a very solid card. I think the art is absolutely stunning. She is one of the only cards that I have in a deck that sometimes when I'm just home and I got nothing to do, I will just go find the deck box she's in, take it out, just to look at the art. There's just something about it that just looks really nice. I like that she's got melon bread trait, which is very flavorful to the show. I started watching the show sometime maybe spring or so earlier in the year. A friend of mine was talking about this combo for Dengeki. He was going to try to pick up a copy. At that point, I thought maybe I should give the show a try. I had never watched it before. And the show had, I think it came out in like early mid 2000s, and it very much felt like an early 2000s show, maybe even a late 90s anime type of show. Not in a bad way, sort of like in the best way, where just the music back then had a certain style, the art had a certain style to it, the voice acting had a certain style to it. It was just very nice to watch. I probably got about 75% of the way done, haven't finished it yet, but I only started watching it to see if I wanted to pick up this card. This is a card that was very, very difficult to find. Dengeki is a set that people sounded like they were looking forward to it. However, by the time it came out, I think maybe the hype had died down a lot because while it was definitely opened, I think that it wasn't opened as much as I definitely not as much as I would have expected, and I think a lot of people would have agreed that maybe it wasn't as opened up as much as it would have if there was just a bit more hype around it. I think it was one of those sets that lost hype because it seemed like a set that we would never get. Like we never got Sneaker Bunko. I don't really know the whole licensing things or whatever. I don't know which Bunkos are owned by which companies, why we get some Bunko sets and not other Bunko sets. But this seemed like one that we might just get skipped over. And then it was announced. However, it seemed like the hype had already just sort of nosedived at that point. And again, it was opened, but a big problem with this set, while it's a good set, it has like 50 something SPs in it, or close to 50 or something like that. So when you have a set with that many SPs, it's not a problem if you are an Azure Lane or a Nikkei or a HoloLive, which just has a million people opening it up, so that it's not a problem having a good supply of any SP, whether it's the Chase SP or the worst SPs or anything in between. However, when there's 50 or so, give or take, SPs in a set, and it's open, but it's only opened up a medium amount, maybe, if I'm being generous, to be honest, then it becomes much harder to just have a supply of any ones that you want. Even ones that aren't good, aren't hotly desired, can just be hard to find. You could spend a lot of time looking for them. So this card was something that was very difficult to find, and it was quite a journey. It did take a while. I had to look in a lot of different places, post a good number of times. I think I got one from Tressa's. After that, I was getting them from random places. Someone reached out saying about one of them. Super easy transaction. That one went really well. The two other copies, though, aside from that one and the Trusses one, they were really, really hard to find. And it sort of just came down to chance on those two. But it was definitely something that by the time I had them all in my hands, I was just looking at them, sleeving them up, and then getting the other cards I needed for the deck, which was a lot easier than getting this card. It was something where I felt like I was at the end of a journey, and it was definitely the hardest card to find for the entire year. And I would definitely say it was worth it, though. Just a really, really great card overall. Really great art. Very good effect. It's a little underrated in my opinion. It's not the most amazing thing that's ever been printed, but this is definitely the chase card of Dengeki Bunko. It's definitely the priciest card in the set, for a good reason. I do think it's one of the better cards in the set. It's a very underrated level 3 combo. I think the only thing holding this card back is the fact that Dengeki is just sort of an okay but not amazing set, and the Shauna set that is dedicated to Shauna that we got a few months prior is definitely worse than Dengeki. It's really only saved by the fact it has that 1/1 Yuji. So I do think this Shauna, if you are trying to play competitively, you're really sort of just riding how good this Shauna is, usually backed up by that 1/1 Yuji, because the rest of the deck definitely feels like you're on borrowed time. It's kind of easy to lose. You kind of just need things to go your way. But I do like Shauna, so I do not regret this at all. Don't make it sound like I regret it. This card is fantastic. Looked at in a vacuum, it looks beautiful. The design on it is fantastic. The effect is very good. I really enjoyed the chase of having to negotiate deals with different people and find the cards, and one by one, like I was collecting Infinity Stones, just finally getting it. I really didn't think at the start of the year I would be looking for this card. I never thought I would build it. I kind of had zero interest when Dengeki came out, but the show was pretty solid, from like the 75% of it I watched, and still needs to finish. So just a really great thing overall. It just sort of had an effect on me that I can't say the other cards that were in this list did, just for a variety of reasons. Now that I'm making this video, it's something where I do need to make a point to play with this list more. Right now I'm on the pure Shauna list. Just a lot of great looking cards in that set, even if it comes with a caveat that you're sort of like playing a handicap if you're playing Shauna, since you are relying heavily on that 1/1 Yuji and this level 3 Shauna combo. But that is it for the video. I do appreciate anyone who stuck through to the end. I hope you enjoyed my picks. I would love to see some comments about people's own favorite cards that they picked up this year. Weiss is a game that I think is great for collectors and players and player collectors. There's a lot of variety to it. I just love talking about it, and I have really loved and appreciated being able to share some of my favorite cards from 2025 with you guys. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.